As you age, would you be interested in knowing your risk of frailty and death from any cause up to 15 years before your symptoms appeared?
I think most of us would like to know that because I think we think we're indestructible, particularly when we're younger. And as we age, it changes and it creeps up on you. So if you can have some kind of laboratory tests that will tell you you need to do something to change what you're doing or else you're going to be in trouble, I think a lot of people would be interested in that.
I think a lot of people think that they live a healthy lifestyle anyway, though. So, like, how would that change anything?
Well, if they're actually living a healthy lifestyle is
If
one
they really
thing.
are.
Because most people say, oh, yeah, I am. But when you really look at the details of it, they're really not.
Well, a lot of people really need that motivation in order to change.
Right.
And if we don't see the crooked path that we're on, many times we think that we can get by with it for a while longer, just putting off that healthy lifestyle until we come to the edge of that cliff at the end of the path.
Yeah, well, that's right. And then it seems like there's this sudden change. You've had your heart attack or your stroke or you've gotten cancer or something's happened. And really, it's been progressing for 10 or 15 or 20 years rather than just overnight.
The wellness buffer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So new Johns Hopkins research suggests that the amount of mitochondrial DNA found in the blood is a useful predictor and biomarker for these risks. And because we all age differently, this association can be helpful information, and now we have a way to test for this. So first, let's just start out by talking about what mitochondrial DNA is. It sounds very technical.
Right. Well, let's start with mitochondria first, because most people don't know what a mitochondria is. These are the little energy packet, of which there are thousands in every cell, that make the energy that our bodies operate from, which is called ATP. Gasoline runs a car, ATP runs your body. If you have enough mitochondrial DNA in your bloodstream, it's consistent with how effective are your mitochondria at using oxygen to be able to make ATP. So that's what it is. And
Okay,
it's an
now they're
important
talking
thing.
about testing this with a blood test, but don't
Exactly.
they know about the bioenergy test?
Well, that's another test. Okay, that's doing cardiopulmonary exercise testing, which we've been doing for some time now, that measures specifically based on how you do with exercise when we measure oxygen utilization, oxygen intake, and carbon dioxide production. From that, we can tell you what your mitochondrial DNA, how well it's working, and indirectly how much there is. So you wouldn't have to do this test to be able to find out that number. And in actuality, you can't do this test in clinical practice yet, but you can do the CPET test, which is the cardiopulmonary exercise test.
So what does the mitochondrial DNA have to do with oxygen utilization?
Well, it's just another way of measuring it. There are different ways of measuring that are direct. Some of them are direct, like we do with the CPET test, and some of them are indirect.
So what's it have to do with the DNA?
Well, the DNA is just telling you how much DNA you have. If you have fewer mitochondria, you're going to have fewer DNA. And as you age, you run out of mitochondria, and they get smaller. So by doing this CPET test I'm talking about, you can tell people how much exercise they should do to make their mitochondria more robust and to increase their numbers.
Okay, so we're talking about this in relationship to frailty.
Exactly.
Let's define what that is, too.
Well, frailty is something where you lose muscle strength, you don't have so much energy, your activity level is lower, and you tend to lose weight. It happens to a lot of older people as they begin to lose their mitochondrial DNA. So it's an interesting association.
So when a person's energy decreases, then they're more susceptible to disease.
To that, and because you don't have enough ATP. See, ATP, the energy currency of the cell, is dependent upon how well your mitochondria can make ATP. So if you don't utilize oxygen very efficiently as you age, then all these things are going to happen. And what they found in the study was very interesting, because in patients who had frailty, they had about 9% less DNA in their blood, and the bottom 20% of people had that, and they were quite a bit more likely to be frail than the top 20%. So these people who had a lot less DNA actually lived about 2 years less than people who had more. And it's also interesting that women have about 21% more mitochondrial DNA than men, which tells you that this is probably part of the reason why they're living longer.
So how do we increase our mitochondrial DNA so that we can live longer and not be frail, have a healthier quality of life?
Right. Well, this is through lifestyle, and the primary thing is exercise. If you exercise in a certain way, you will make your mitochondria bigger, and if you exercise a little bit more in an active way, you will also increase the number of mitochondria you have. So the answer is you're in a struggle between getting older, when you naturally lose these things, and doing exercise. And that's why exercise is probably the most powerful anti-aging strategy we have in all of medicine.
So as people get older, many times it's difficult to do much exercise, but I suppose some strength training?
Any kind of thing that builds strength is a good thing to do. I've been a tennis player my whole life, but as I've begun to age more, I'm finding that I can't do as much as I did before. So I found another way to exercise. I'll ride a bike and try to ride a mountain trail to the best of my ability. Now, as you age, you're going to lose those mitochondria, and your mitochondrial DNA will go down in your bloodstream, and you'll be at a higher risk for not being able to do more things.
Well, I remember this lady that was quite elderly. She was in her 90s, and she used to love to talk about how she would exercise every morning when she got up, and she'd describe what all the exercises were and how she liked to dance. But she had a lot of life and energy in her.
She was playing tennis in her 90s.
She had very good quality of life, yeah.
Some of that's genetic, and that's very nice, but some of it is related to lifestyle. You know, Vicki and I are always saying that the most powerful medicine in the universe is lifestyle. And we'll say it again. That's what we should be practicing the most of, because that's what's going to keep us the healthiest.
And we've also reported on studies showing that we can change our DNA.
Oh, absolutely. Even your thoughts change your DNA. It's more about epigenetics, meaning the environment and what you do with lifestyle, than it is with your DNA from what you've inherited.